Welcome to the Growth Room. Today we're diving into one of the most important productivity books ever written, Deep Work by Cal Newport. Over the next hour, you'll discover why the ability to focus without distraction is becoming one of the most valuable skills in the modern world, and how mastering it can transform your career, learning, and life. Imagine two people in the same profession. Person A spends their day responding to every email, checking Slack messages every 5 minutes, attending back-to-back meetings, and constantly switching between tasks. They feel busy, they feel tired, but at the end of the day, they struggle to point to one significant thing they actually created. Person B, on the other hand, disappears for 3 hours in the morning. They lock their office, silence their phone, and pour their entire cognitive capacity into a single complex problem. By noon, they have produced more high-quality work than Person A manages in a week. This isn't just about time management. This is the difference between shallow work and deep work. Cal Newport, a computer science professor at Georgetown University, argues that we are living in an era where our ability to concentrate is being systematically eroded by the very tools we use to stay connected. He defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are incredibly hard to replicate. Why is this a superpower? Because the economy is shifting. We are moving away from repetitive, manual labor and into a world dominated by complex digital work. In this new landscape, the ability to quickly master hard things and the ability to produce at an elite level, in terms of both quality and speed, are the two most important currency factors. If you can't focus, you can't master complex skills, and if you can't master complex skills, you become replaceable by automation or cheaper, more focused labor. Focus is becoming rare. Think about your average day. How often do you go an hour without checking your phone, looking at an email, or multitasking? Most of us have trained our brains to crave the constant stimulation of the internet. We have become comfortable with, and even addicted to, the shallow. Shallow work consists of non-cognitively demanding, logistical-style tasks, often performed while distracted. These tasks are necessary, but they don't move the needle on your long-term success. They are easily replicated by anyone else. Deep work is the opposite. It requires you to be uncomfortable. It requires you to sit with a hard problem until your brain aches. It feels exhausting, but that exhaustion is the sign that you are actually growing. When you perform deep work, you are literally wiring new neural pathways, making your brain more capable, faster, and more creative. It's the difference between doing a crossword puzzle for entertainment and training for a chess championship. So, why do more people do it? Because it's hard. It is infinitely easier to scroll through social media or clear out an inbox than it is to write code, compose an essay, or solve a technical design challenge. We have been sold the myth that being available and responsive is the same thing as being productive. It isn't. You could be the most responsive person in the office and still produce nothing of real value. Deep work is also incredibly meaningful. There is a deep psychological satisfaction that comes from mastering a craft and creating something that stands the test of time. Think of the state of flow, that magical experience where you lose track of time because you are so engrossed in your work that the world around you seems to fade away. That state is only accessible through the doorway of deep, focused effort. In the upcoming sections, we're going to look at the rules of the game. We will explore how to build rituals that protect your focus, how to embrace the boredom that comes with doing hard work, why you might need to reconsider your relationship with social media, and how to drain the shallows so you can prioritize what actually matters. Before we move into the mechanics, take a second to consider your current environment. Are you in a hyperactive hive mind, where everyone is expected to be reachable every second of the day? If you are, you're likely stuck in a cycle of constant context switching. Every time you switch tasks, even for a split second to check a notification, your brain experiences attention residue. A part of your cognitive energy stays back with the last task, meaning your next task won't get 100% of your focus. If you do this all day, you are literally working at a fraction of your potential. Deep work is your way out. It's a rebellion against the modern obsession with constant digital noise. It's a commitment to your own potential. As we move forward, try not to view this as a set of rules to restrict you, but as a framework to liberate your best ideas. You aren't just trying to get more done. You're trying to be a better version of yourself, capable of producing work that actually matters to the world. Now that we've established that deep work is a rare and valuable skill, let's look closer at why this is so essential for the modern professional. In Chapter 2, Newport explains that deep work is fundamentally tied to two core abilities: the ability to quickly master hard things and the ability to produce at an elite level. Think about how fast technology and industry are changing today. If you're a programmer learning a new language, a researcher analyzing complex data, or an entrepreneur building a business model, the half-life of your current knowledge is very short. If you can't learn new things quickly, you will be left behind. This is where deliberate practice comes into play. You cannot master a difficult subject while your attention is split between a textbook and a buzzing phone. Learning requires a high level of cognitive intensity. You need to push your brain to the absolute limit. When you achieve that intensity, you aren't just reading or observing. You're physically building myelin in your brain, insulating your neural circuits so you can process that information faster and more effectively. Furthermore, consider the economic output of deep work. In our current economy, the people who are rewarded are those who can synthesize information, create novel solutions, and handle high-level complexity. These are not tasks that can be automated by basic software. When you produce high-quality work in a state of deep focus, you're doing something that is quite literally hard to copy. If you provide something that is unique and high quality, you become an indispensable asset. However, as we discussed, we live in an era where deep work is becoming rare. This is due to several structural and cultural issues. First, we have the social media effect. Platforms are engineered by the smartest minds in the world to break your focus and keep you clicking. They're designed to exploit our need for social validation and our fear of missing out. Then there is the open office trend. While companies argue this encourages collaboration, study after study shows that constant interruptions and the noise of shared space drastically reduce our ability to engage in prolonged, deep thought. We've also created a culture of busyness. We treat being connected as a proxy for being productive. We have this constant, low-level anxiety that if we aren't checking our emails, we might miss something important. This creates a feedback loop of shallow work. Because we feel we must be responsive, we never have the time to go deep. Because we never go deep, we don't produce high-value results. Because we don't produce high-value results, we have to stay busy and responsive to keep our jobs. It's a vicious cycle that keeps you spinning your wheels without ever moving forward. But there is a silver lining here. Because deep work is so rare, it is becoming a massive competitive advantage. If you can cultivate the ability to focus in a world where almost everyone else is distracted, you will stand out. You will be the person who finishes the project before everyone else. You will be the person who learns the new technology in a week that takes others a month. It's not just about efficiency, it's about dominance in your field. Beyond the career benefits, there is a profound psychological benefit. Deep work is deeply satisfying. Think about the last time you felt truly in the zone. Maybe it was while solving a hard coding problem, writing a beautiful piece of prose, or crafting a strategy that actually worked. That sense of agency, the feeling that you are in control of your attention and your output, is a key ingredient for happiness. When your work is constantly interrupted, you feel fragmented, stressed, and reactive. When you work deeply, you feel a sense of wholeness and purpose. You aren't just working, you are mastering. As we transition into how to actually do this, I want you to remember that this isn't about working longer hours. It's about working with higher intensity. You don't need to work for 12 hours a day. You only need to work for a few hours of intense focus. The rest of the time can be used for rest, reflection, and the shallow tasks that are unavoidable. But those few hours of deep, locked-in focus, those are your leverage. Those are what will define your success. In the next part, we will start breaking down the rules. We will move from the why to the how. We'll explore the specific rituals you can implement to signal to your brain that it is time to go deep, and we'll look at the different philosophies of scheduling your work so you can find the one that fits your lifestyle. Whether you're a student, a developer, or a CEO, these frameworks are designed to be adapted, not just followed blindly. Get ready, because we're going to change the way you look at your calendar forever. Now that we understand the stakes, it's time to move into the rules of the deep work lifestyle. This is the practical engine that drives your success. Newport begins by introducing 4 specific philosophies for integrating deep work into your life. You don't need to follow all of them. You need to choose the one that fits your current reality. The first is the monastic philosophy. This is the most extreme approach, where you eliminate all shallow obligations to focus on one singular, deeply important goal. Think of a researcher retreating to a cabin for months to solve a complex theorem, or a writer living in isolation to finish a manuscript. It's highly effective, but it's rarely practical for those of us living in the modern, connected world. The second is the bimodal philosophy. This involves splitting your time into distinct, long-term periods. You might spend 4 days a week in total isolation, and the remaining days available for all your shallow, administrative work. This is fantastic for professors or high-level creative professionals who can afford to disappear for chunks of time. The third, and perhaps most common, is the rhythmic philosophy. This is about consistency. You create a daily habit, say from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. every single morning, where you engage in deep work. By turning it into a rhythm, you remove the decision fatigue of wondering when you'll work. Your brain eventually learns that at 5 a.m., the switch flips and it's time to perform. Finally, there is the journalistic philosophy. This is for those with very unpredictable schedules. You must be able to recognize a window of free time, even if it's just 30 minutes, and immediately pivot into a state of deep work. This is the hardest to master, as it requires a high degree of mental discipline to snap into focus without a dedicated ritual. Regardless of which philosophy you choose, you need rituals. You cannot simply decide to focus and expect it to happen. You need to create an environment that signals to your brain that the session has begun. Will you work? How long will you work? How will you support your work? Perhaps with a specific coffee, a specific playlist, or a clean desk. How will you protect your work? By turning your phone off, using website blockers, or even hanging a do not disturb sign. These rituals remove the friction of starting and make deep work your default state, rather than a heroic, one-off effort. Now, let's talk about a counterintuitive but essential rule. Rule 2. Embrace boredom. Most of us are terrified of being bored. The second we have a gap in our schedule, we reach for our phones. We are constantly feeding our brains with stimulation, even in line at the grocery store or waiting for an elevator. But here is the problem. If you train your brain to be constantly stimulated, you are effectively destroying your capacity for focus. When you spend your downtime constantly checking emails or browsing social media, you are teaching your brain to expect a constant stream of new information. So, when you try to sit down for a deep work session, your brain literally itches for that stimulation. It's like a muscle that has forgotten how to be calm. The strategy here is to schedule breaks from focus, not breaks from boredom. Instead of taking breaks from your work to check your phone, you should be taking breaks from your distractions. If you need a break, go for a walk, stare out the window, or just sit in silence. You must learn to be comfortable with your own thoughts. When you stop feeding your brain constant entertainment, you slowly regain the ability to concentrate. You'll notice that your mind stops jumping and starts staying. This is the foundation of long-term attention. Remember the concept of attention residue I mentioned earlier? Every time you glance at your inbox or check a notification while working, you leave a residue of that distraction on your current task. It takes time for your brain to fully clear that residue and get back to full intensity. By embracing boredom and cutting out the check-in habit, you stop creating that residue in the first place. You keep your cognitive engine running at maximum capacity. This is the difference between an amateur who is always distracted and a pro who can hold a single, complex idea in their mind for hours at a time. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it is exactly where the magic happens. Moving deeper into our framework, we arrive at one of the most controversial yet transformative rules. Rule 3. Quit social media. Now, before you panic and delete every account you have, let's be clear about what this means. Newport isn't suggesting you live in a cave. He is advocating for digital minimalism. Most people use digital tools because they believe in the any benefit mindset. If an app offers a tiny bit of value, like keeping in touch with a distant friend or seeing a funny video, then it must be good to have. Newport flips this. He argues for a craftsman approach to tool selection. Ask yourself, what are your primary goals in life? What are the high-level tasks that move your career or personal growth forward? Then, evaluate each digital tool based on the substantial impact it has on those goals. If the negatives of a tool, the wasted time, the fragmented attention, the constant anxiety, outweigh the positives, you cut it. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be where your value is created. If you're a content creator, sure, maybe you need Instagram. But if you're a software developer, do you really need to be scrolling through Twitter while you're trying to solve a bug? Probably not. This leads us to Rule 4, drain the shallows. We've talked about deep work, but we must address the shallow work that fills our days. Shallow work includes things like answering non-urgent emails, scheduling meetings, filing reports, and attending superficial status updates. These tasks are not bad, but they are low leverage. They keep you employed, but they don't get you promoted. They don't make you a master. The strategy here is to treat your time like a budget. You have a finite amount of cognitive energy each day. If you spend it on shallow work, you have nothing left for the deep work. One of the best ways to manage this is through time blocking. Don't just make a to-do list. Assign every hour of your day a task. If you don't dictate what you do with your time, your calendar will fill up with other people's priorities. When you block your time, you aren't just scheduling tasks. You're creating a plan that protects your focus. If something unexpected happens, and it will, don't throw the whole schedule away. Just revise the blocks. It's like a pilot adjusting their flight plan. You are the pilot of your career, and you need to be intentional about where you are flying. Let's apply this to specific roles. If you're a student, stop studying by just highlighting your notes while watching Netflix. That's a trap. Use deep work sessions to actively recall information or practice solving problems until your brain is tired. That is where learning happens. If you're a programmer, stop multitasking between coding, Slack, and your email. Create a 3-hour block where you do nothing but code. You will find that you solve problems in half the time because you aren't constantly losing your place in your logic. Entrepreneurs, you are the most at risk. You are often the customer service for your own business. If you spend all day answering support tickets, you will never build a strategy that makes your company worth more. Dedicate the first 4 hours of your day to your highest value creative task. Nothing else exists until those 4 hours are done. It feels dangerous, I know. You feel like you might miss something. But trust me, the emails will still be there at noon. The business-changing ideas, however, will only show up if you give them the space to breathe. As we look at the modern landscape, we see a world of distraction. Smartphones, notification dings, and the doom-scrolling cycle are designed to keep you in a state of perpetual shallow distraction. You are being pushed toward a life of reactive living. When you finally decide to go deep, you are choosing to be proactive. You are choosing to produce instead of consume. This is not just a productivity hack. It is a way to reclaim your life from the platforms that profit from your scattered attention. It is the most radical act of self-care and professional ambition you can possibly undertake. We've covered the why and the how, but I want to take a moment to look at the advanced concepts that separate the high performers from the rest of the pack. If you want to reach that top 1% in your field, you need to understand the relationship between intensity and output. First, let's revisit flow state. This is the peak performance state where you're so fully immersed in an activity that you lose your sense of self and time. To reach this, you must have a clear, challenging goal and immediate feedback. Shallow work can never trigger flow because it lacks the necessary cognitive demand. When you commit to a 3-hour block of deep work, you aren't just working, you're actively hunting for this flow state. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes of effort just to warm up your brain. So if you break your focus early, you effectively kill your chances of reaching that state of peak performance. Second, consider the concept of deliberate practice. This is a term from performance psychology that Newport applies perfectly to deep work. It's not just about doing your job. It's about pushing your ability to its absolute edge. If you're a writer, don't just write. Spend your session focusing on one specific aspect, like improving your sentence rhythm or clarify your arguments, and measure your results. If you're a developer, don't just code. Spend your session learning a new design pattern or optimizing a specific algorithm. Deep work provides the environment, but deliberate practice provides the direction. We also have to talk about cognitive intensity. Think of your focus like a spotlight. If you spread that light over a large area, checking emails, planning your lunch, looking at a spreadsheet, the light is weak and dim. But if you focus that same amount of light into a tiny, concentrated point, it can cut through steel. That is what you're doing with your career. When you bring intense focus to a complex problem, you're performing a form of mental alchemy. You are transforming your time into high-value intellectual capital. Now, let's get practical with your deep work action plan. I want you to start this tomorrow. Audit your schedule. Look at where your time goes. Identify the hours where you are most alert. For most, this is in the morning, but listen to your own body. Commit to a ritual. Define a specific location and a startup ritual. Maybe it's a specific desk, a cup of tea, and a do not disturb sign on your door. Set a hard stop. Define a time when your workday ends. This is crucial. When you know you have to stop at 5 p.m., you will naturally become more focused during the day. It's called productive meditation. You will find ways to be more efficient because you have an external deadline pushing you. Schedule your shallow work. Don't let emails drip feed into your day. Create 2 or 3 office hour blocks, say 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., where you handle all your emails, messages, and administrative tasks. Outside of those blocks, you're unreachable. I know what you're thinking. I can't just stop responding to people. You'd be surprised. When you communicate your boundaries clearly, people respect them. If you tell your team, I'm in deep work mode until 11 a.m., but I'll get back to you immediately after, they will quickly learn to work around your schedule. The world won't end if you don't reply to an email within 30 seconds. Tracking your progress is just as important. Keep a simple scorecard. Did you hit your target number of deep hours today? Be honest with yourself. If you aim for 4 hours but only manage 1, don't beat yourself up. Just analyze why. Was it a distraction? A lack of sleep? A poorly defined task? Adjust your plan and try again tomorrow. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being better than you were yesterday. As you begin to build these habits, you will notice a shift. You won't just feel more productive. You will be more productive. You will start finishing projects days ahead of schedule. Your work will take on a level of depth and sophistication that your peers will notice. You will stop being the person who is always catching up and start being the person who is leading the way. This is the power of deep work. It's not just a productivity method. It's a competitive advantage that can define your entire life. We've walked through the principles, the rules, the philosophies, and the action plan. Now let's bring it all together. Think about the biggest challenges you face. Maybe it's the sheer volume of information you need to learn for your career, the anxiety of never feeling caught up, or the frustration of working hard but not seeing your status or income grow. Deep work is the antidote to all of these. The core lesson is this. In an era of infinite distraction, the person who can focus, learn quickly, and produce high-quality work is the most valuable person in the room. This isn't just theory. If you look at the most successful people in any field, whether they're world-class developers, best-selling authors, or top-tier executives, they all share one trait: the ability to protect their time and dedicate it to the work that matters most. We have explored the deep work framework. Identify your high-value work. Differentiate between the things that just keep you busy and the things that build your future. Choose your ritual. Find a philosophy that fits your life and commit to it. Embrace the boredom. Stop reaching for your phone. Teach your brain to sit with itself. Trim the shallows. Block your time. Minimize your digital footprint and protect your focus at all costs. Remember, the goal isn't just to work more. The goal is to work with intention. When you treat your concentration as a finite, precious resource, you become a much better guardian of your own potential. You stop being a victim of your inbox and start being the architect of your own output. I want to leave you with this. The difficulty you feel when you first try to focus for an hour is not a sign of failure. It is the feeling of your brain growing. It is the feeling of your focus muscles getting stronger. It is the feeling of you shedding the habits of the distracted majority and moving into the focused minority. This transition won't happen overnight. You will have days where you fall back into your old habits. That's okay. The key is to start again. Keep tracking your deep hours. Keep refining your rituals. Keep cutting away the shallow work that serves no one but the platforms trying to steal your time. You have the power to decide what your days look like. You don't have to be a slave to the ping of a notification or the urgent requests that aren't actually important. By prioritizing deep work, you are declaring that your mind and your output are too valuable to be wasted on the trivial. You are setting the stage for a life of mastery, impact, and deep, lasting satisfaction. You are now equipped with the tools to change how you work forever. The path to becoming the top 1% in your field starts not with a grand gesture, but with the next hour you have on your calendar. Close your tabs, turn off your notifications, and start doing the work that actually matters. The world is waiting for what you are truly capable of producing when you finally give yourself the gift of focus. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through Cal Newport's deep work. I hope this summary has provided you with a clear roadmap to reclaim your focus and skyrocket your productivity. Remember, the concepts we've discussed, ritualizing your focus, embracing boredom, and draining the shallows, are not just abstract ideas. They are practical tools that, when applied consistently, will fundamentally change the trajectory of your professional and personal life. If you found value in this breakdown, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, The Growth Room. Your support helps us continue creating content designed to help you master discipline, productivity, and success. Leave a comment below letting me know, what is the one shallow task you're going to cut out of your routine starting today to make room for deeper, more meaningful work? I love reading your insights and seeing how you're implementing these strategies in your own lives. At The Growth Room, our mission is to bring you the most powerful ideas from the world's greatest books on wealth creation, self-improvement, focus, and long-term success. We are building a community of high performers, and I am so glad to have you with us as we sharpen our minds and pursue excellence together. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with a final thought. We often overestimate what we can accomplish in a day, but we vastly underestimate what we can achieve in a year if we commit to a life of focused, deliberate effort. Don't look for quick fixes or the next shiny hack. The secret to extraordinary results is hidden in the quiet, uncomfortable, and intensely focused work that most people are unwilling to do. Be that person who dives deep. Be that person who produces the work that lasts. You have a unique potential within you, and it is only through the engine of your concentration that you will truly unlock it. Go out there, claim your focus, and start building your legacy. We'll see you in the next one.